In my studio practice, I have 3 words that are watchwords: finding, following, and forming. The finding relates to context, asking the questions where I am and what time it is. And following process helps me know where to go, where to step, what to do, helping me to put one foot in front of the other and do the next important thing. And forming, I'm forming clay and forming self. It is what gives meaning and purpose to what I'm doing. I had experiences with clay since I was a child. Worked with clay in high school and did some in college. But I had a real experience in my 20s when I was traveling on trains across Western Europe. We had been in the mountains in Switzerland and in Roma, which was hot and lots of noise. And so we had found ourselves in Assisi, this quiet little town where St. Francis had come from, made famous. At some point, I had gone off walking by myself and gotten into smaller and smaller streets and alleyways. I realized I was lost. That's when I heard this voice, clear as a bell: "Chris, your life's work will be with people and clay." And I looked around and there was no one there. Realized it's a small town and I don't need to be too scared. And I just sort of retraced my path and found out where we were staying and found my way back to our place.
This is the chimney damper, and determines how much the heat from the firebox on the other side of the kiln is pulled across the bottom.
I began to pursue a master's degree at seminary. This was a place that my parents had gone to school. It was a very demanding academic program, a lot of reading books and processing information, a lot of writing papers and putting ideas together, and it was at a very different level than I had experienced at college. While I was doing that, I also worked for a ceramics business and for an artist named Sarah Frederick. I would set my books aside and come to work with my hands and my body, making pots at the wheel for her, which were part of her business, and would pass them on to someone else who would decorate them and fire them. And she was a very successful, smart business person as well as an artist.
Can you help grandma again?
There was a real contrast at this point between those big ideas and philosophies that I was encountering academically and in my mind at seminary versus the hands-on body work with the clay and connecting with other people who were doing that. And there was a lot of artistic community there.
It's a bowl, and he wanted it to be able to sit on its side, and the yew tree will...
While I was there at seminary, I came to realize that I was an artist, and a lot of the things that I learned caused me to set aside my interest in formal religion, organized religion. So from Louisville, I worked with Byron Temple, who had been an apprentice with Bernard Leach and trained in a particular tradition of ceramics. And that tradition had trained their people in an apprenticeship manner and not an academic way. To learn with Byron and to learn in this tradition was to work with a master and to work with someone who had learned one-to-one and had this information transmitted to them through hands-on doing and through hands-on practice. And so working with Byron, he had a double wheel, and he would sit on one side and I would sit on the other side, and he would make a pot and show me how to do that. We would look at the work that I had made after we had done it, pick the best piece out and talk about why this form was stronger than this other form. And it was a very intimate sort of relationship there. And it contrasted to a certain degree with the more rational work that I was doing at seminary, the more empirical kind of measurements that one would do, where you were graded and given ways to talk about outcomes and trying to put it into an empirical way to measure how much had been learned and how competent one was. And it took a while for me to sort through all of the things that happened at seminary and to make sense of all of the ideas, books, and people that I encountered there. After a couple of years out of seminary, working with Byron and then working as a resident artist at the Archie Bray Foundation in Helena, Montana, I entered into a Master of Fine Arts program at the New York State College of Ceramics at Alfred. And it was a world-class master's program in fine arts, and it was looking at ceramics not from an apprenticeship sort of way, but from a broader perspective of education. I spent a few years after that MFA settling out a lot of things that had happened to me and that I had learned living at the Birdcliff Arts Colony in Woodstock, New York, and creating a ceramics program there with my friend Rich, who had found this old arts colony, the oldest one in the United States. Okay. But there are also these immaterial aspects of being a potter that I work with as an artist, the human heart and emotions and feelings. And those are aspects that I work with as an artist too. And they are central, probably the most important things. And so I'm trying to give voice and trying to give form to these stories of transformation, these feelings of wanting to do something worthwhile and meaningful, wanting to create something useful and beautiful, wanting to connect with other people and to share part of myself and part of my feeling with other people. And ceramics has been my way to do that. I've been able to look at Mimbres pottery and pottery in the Southwest, native pottery, and Islamic pottery from medieval times. And there's a learning about what they've done and how they've divided space and a reinterpretation of that. This is an oak leaf pattern from the 14th century in Iran. This pattern has 4 oak leaves, and 4 is a symbol for wholeness around the world. This turquoise glaze, if it's in a dark, smoky part of an atmospheric firing, will turn red, so it's got a lot of depth and variation to it. And I've put some patterns underneath it, and it's got a nice orange flashing slip that gives it an earthy color. And then historically, people stacked pieces on top of one another so that more could fit in the kiln, and there weren't necessarily kill shelves at that point.
Oh wow, what is this? That's a nice plate.
Did it survive?
Yeah, it was right here, but this is
A lot of times there are expectations that I have for pieces. And so I imagine what they're going to be like in my mind, and I try to make that happen. I have an intention for them, do everything I can in that part of the process. And then you turn them over to the fire, and they have a conversation, and they come out as they will or like they do. And they may not match my expectations, and so I'm disappointed, and it takes a while for me to see them for what they are.
very dynamic, and we got
So many analogies that that happen, with my life and going into seminary, wanting to be a certain thing, and going into this fire of learning and critiquing belief systems and looking at things in a critical way. It was hard for me to appreciate the fact that I had become more who I wanted to be and followed that voice that I had heard in Assisi about your life's work being with people in clay. But over time, there's this realization of, wow, that's really beautiful. That's more than I could have imagined it would have been. And so there's those kinds of rewards in being a ceramic artist and learning to appreciate things for what they are. So this is my treasure, and my riches are earthy and pots, and they tell my story and the story of humankind for 14,000 years. Archaeologists read ceramics and pottery to tell what was going on, what the people ate, what their values were. And as ceramics has gone through the years, it's developed and incorporated what was possible at the time. Isn't that right, Zuli?